All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr. That laughter you hear from Max is a technical glitch that has us starting at 8:11 Central on Sunday morning, which, by the way, this game last night was a late one, as we know. Kentucky beats the Zags, just as we all predicted here at Southeastern 16. We'll get into that in here in a second, Max. But a huge win for Kentucky. Dozens, hundreds of people just jumping in the first 30 seconds here. Incredible. Kentucky fans are ready to talk about this game from last night. Yeah, Sam Smith's trying to figure out where Chris is. Even Chris didn't know we were going live at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. But we're going to get into all that, Max. But, Max, just initial thoughts on the comeback win for Kentucky. We'll get into some of the other games that took place on Saturday of note, and we'll talk about some of the Sunday matchups as well. But lots of Cats fans in here talking about Mark Pope's team, the comeback at the Zags.
Before I do dive into this game, Blake, and I am very excited to do so, there's a few people more excited than me. I look at all the action in here early. Hey, now most of the time I miss the live shows, but Big Blue Nation, full force today. We've got first-time viewers from Big Blue Nation Evelyn. Today. Welcome in. Welcome in. We are just as excited as you are.
From Chad. Blake, can you confirm the glitch was with Max's mustache glue? I cannot confirm that. We will keep the glitch private for now. But, it's 8 a.m. We get a little excited. Maybe we'll tell you exactly what the glitch was here soon enough. But
yeah, we'll get there. So before I dive into the game, Blake, we got some records. It was a historic night. In Seattle for the SEC. So Mark Pope obviously joins Adolph Rupp as the only two Kentucky basketball coaches to win their first two games against top 10 opponents. You got that one, but the one that blew me away was this is a snapping of a 175-game streak of Gonzaga wins when leading by 10 or more at half. 175-game streak snapped by Pope and the Cats, Blake.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, the game itself, I think you looked at the way that game played out. That's the thing. It's not just a win against the Zags on a semi-away game in overtime. It's just the way they did it. I think that is just the part where you just look back and you're like, man, Gonzaga was up 16 points, early in the second half. It was 52-34. And, I mean, I told you, I'm like, this is danger zone potentially for the Cats here because, how many other teams? I wasn't going to go as far as to say, I don't want this to look like Gonzaga and Baylor, right? I mean, we saw what they can do when they just start steamrolling people, and you keep looking at it, and you're like, well, train gets off the tracks a little bit. This team's good enough to just run you out of the building, right? But Kentucky, each time, able to withstand it, even towards the end of the game there, where, you're still feeling the momentum. You're like, all right, yeah, Kentucky's making a run here, but, this is tough. Right? It was, I don't know, what was it, 76-71 with about 2 minutes to go, something like that. And, of course, the way, the game played out from there, I mean, once you got to overtime, I think it's when you get in these kind of overtimes and these, kind of games right here, that first minute or so of overtime is so crucial because, again, you can feel the momentum just swinging one way or the other. And, for the game to get to overtime, Kentucky had a shot to win it in regulation. So you're thinking, all right, all that momentum may be swung back in the favor of the Zags. They sort of do that sigh of relief. Okay, let's just exhale. We got, 5 minutes here. We'll take care of business, walk out with a win. That didn't happen because the Cats made the big plays down the stretch to get the victory. And, what do you say in terms of the magnitude of this win? Kentucky has now beaten Gonzaga in a semi-away environment. They've beaten Duke on a neutral court, as we know. Sure, they lost the game earlier in the week at Clemson, but this kind of makes up for it right here. This is a bigger win than that was a loss, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, bravo.
Well, Matt Norlander tweeted, and I'm not sure if he was just kind of trying to mention how big of a win this was, but he says that's a seed line bumping win. And this is something that's going to carry with them the rest of the season. Lenardi had the Cats as a 2 seed, but this was at the beginning of the week. So I'm not sure what that means, but this is going to be massive for implications come late February, March. What are you laughing at?
From the famous nobody, all caps here, by the way. Nobody in the chat. I almost cried when I saw Pope go to a zone. Imagine playing zone to win a game. That's one of the best comments right there.
Well,
just
that brings me to another point. Is a lot of people, rightfully so. I mean, that first half, if you watched it, it was pretty one-sided there, especially for Graham Ike down low. A lot of panic, and I was like, I'm not panicking at all. This team they haven't quit in any game yet, and they're going to find a way to fight. The Pope's second half adjustments are ridiculous. Yeah, there you go. I went through and I looked. So they played 9 games, and if you split the 10 minutes or the 20-minute halves, you split it into quarters, and you just call it every 10 minutes is a quarter. That third quarter, Kentucky has only lost once, and it was against Western Kentucky when they already had a lead and they kind of just came out sleepwalking. But they're 8-1 to the third quarter. So you're playing Kentucky. You best believe that first 10 minutes of that second half, more likely than not, that's going to Mark Pope.
Yeah, as Sam Thomas says in the chat here, Mark Pope making a lot of people wish he was a Pope because the way he's coaching basketball right now. Incredible stuff for the Cats, but yeah, I mean, I think that's, and it goes back to what we talked about with just, I think you look at this team and it is, it's one thing just to look at the stats, like we say all the time, like, okay, yeah, they had this guy score this many points, whatever, but like, it's just, once again, this was a game where you had different guys down the stretch there when it's getting into crunch time that are stepping up, making big plays. And I think it's just the same story, right? I mean, Andrew Carr, how many big plays did he make down the stretch, right? Robinson makes the big play late in overtime. It runs together, but, what was it? One of those crucial shots I feel like he made during that stretch. And you just keep going down the line and you look at just, we talk about the minutes distribution on this team, Max. We know what the rotation is at this point. Like, it's pretty clear, I think, with this team, but it's just what you're getting out of those specific guys. And two, remember, I think we came into this game talking about it. Gonzaga, in terms of the numbers, they're still third, 24.9%. But we said, like, in terms of shooting efficiently from three is going to be a struggle because they just have not allowed teams to do that. Kentucky goes 7 of 25 for 28%. And I think that's even more notable here because, I've heard people say, and, we've talked about different elements of this team, but it's like, well, if they're not making threes, what's going to happen? Well, they won the game. So, they found ways. They found other ways to win the game. And I think that's what's just as impressive as anything. So,
yeah, I thought it was obviously it was a huge game for Jackson Robinson, like on the stat sheet and actually what he did, but also just kind of mentally for his confidence, stepping up in a massive game like that and taking control of the offense. Now you almost... Did you just find a wrinkle in this offense we didn't know from before now that you can play big minutes, crucial minutes without Lamont Butler on the floor? You kind of have, obviously you would love him to be on the floor, but now you have a little bit of confidence if he does get into foul trouble or he's having a really bad game. You can turn to other options here to lead the point. Blake, I am going to bring up a little video because I did a little bit of investigative work by some Big Blue Nation on Twitter. Bleed Blue Casey. All right. He was bleeding blue last night. This was I think it was either a TikTok or a Snapchat, some video of Garrison and Lamont Butler celebrating after the game. But look at this investigative work. Kirk Kriisa doesn't look great in the background. Just check this out here. Just watch. Celebrating. Boys are dancing. Having a good time after the game. But just watch Kriisa here.
Oh, man.
Yep.
I don't like to see that.
Look at that. Look at Kriisa.
Ooh.
Okay. A little investigative work there. So I don't know the severity, but he was struggling to walk after the game.
Yeah. Well, that's not ideal. Yeah, I mean that's like we said, we talk about the rotation and what all. I mean that's one of the biggest reasons I think is just the overall depth. As we said, they've just had different guys step up. And still, I mean they've got good depth. But yes, I mean in terms of the different numbers and how many minutes you're playing certain guys. He plays 27 minutes last night, and you can go up down the line. I don't have the average in front of me, but I mean he's a guy that, and I think that was his highest total of the year, wasn't it? Last night he played 27. So and it's an overtime game, but yeah. So I think you look at it from that standpoint, and that's where like Brea, mentioned again, right? He goes 1 of 6 from 3. It's had
top of the backboard.
Well, I mean that's the thing, right? He's not shot the ball as well as he can shoot in the past several games, but I still think, and people talk about the defensive stuff and all that, but when you're having opportunities to need buckets and all that, and knowing that Mark Pope can draw up, great plays and all that kind of stuff, like I still think that, he is going to be a big piece of this puzzle in terms of the importance offensively if they do get into a shooting slump or something. That's where you need Brea to knock down shots. But again, like we've said, I think that's where this is a team really, Max. I mean, outside of really Amari Williams, like everybody can step out and make a shot. And I think that's what, again, we talk about how hard they are to defend and why they can rack up points in a hurry is because, yes, they have a very pretty free-flowing offense. Pope can call different sets and all that. But I think it is that ability with so many different guys who can step out and just make shots. And how do you guard them when on the other side, if you've got maybe just a traditional 5-man or something where you're bringing those kind of guys away from the basket and you're just finding ways to get open shots, clear the paint. That's what I think has been so impressive about watching them just from an offensive standpoint, even though, as let's see, let me pull up the comment here. David from earlier, maybe Chris Lee was right. Defense definitely won the game here. Where's Chris to defend the defensive numbers now for the Cats who have moved up? Yeah, they're still around top 25 defensively. Top 6 now, 25.3%. And 3-point field goal percentage defense is Kentucky. So, Zags couldn't buy a shot last night, finishing 6 of 27. And a couple of those, of course, as we know, came in the overtime period where I think they hit back-to-back, didn't they, Max, to make it a 1-point game or something like that. So,
yeah, Hickman was 0 of 6, and then he hits that prayer for his first 3 of the game. Real quick on Kriisa, it's not an Achilles. If it was an Achilles, we would know by now, I bet. So I think it's just more of a ankle or something like that, but I don't think it's Achilles. And then also Andrew Carr. Andrew Carr comes off one of his worst games of the season. I think his second worst game of the season, 0 of 4 from 2 against Clemson. It was the only game he hadn't made a 2-point field goal, and comes out and is just the go-to guy. I mean, it's the same thing against Duke. He's had his best games against the best teams. He had his best game against Duke. Well, that's his second best game now. And then he just had his best game against the Zags. So you have guys that you can trust in these big time situations. And then you look ahead, Blake, it could be on a little bit of a roll here going into SEC play.
Well, before we get to that, as always, I'm very prepared with our reads that we need here on the show. One we've forgotten a little late, but let's get to it. If you were someone who took our advice on predicting the games, Max, this particular game right here, folks, we as I told someone on Twitter, we understood the assignment. We knew who we needed to pick to make sure we got the result we needed in the SEC. But hold on. Evelyn's excited for the first ad read. Don't worry, you're getting 2 today. So this is the first one, which, as always, we just simply forgot to do earlier. But, Max, let's say you decided to take our advice and bet on the Zags against Kentucky. What were you doing? You knew what we were up to. Terrible. You should have picked the Cats. You should have bet on them, put all the money out there on the Kentucky Wildcats, and you could have done it at our friends at BetOnline, who is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, when we're going to actually do an ad read, and if we get it in before we're supposed to. You can bet on all that stuff over at BetOnline today. And don't forget to use that promo code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, for your welcome bonus on the first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. Don't worry, folks. I got a better one coming up for you in a little bit on the ad reads. That was just, pretty traditional. Sorry, Evelyn.
Yeah.
But, all right, Max. What else? There's something I just had on my mind, but I forgot what it was, but that's not a surprise. What else we want to get to from this game?
I don't have much more, Blake, to be honest. I think we covered a lot. I'm just
the
looking
schedule.
at
Sorry,
I was going on to the schedule, yeah.
You were teeing up the schedule. They play Colgate on Wednesday. Then they've got the big game against Louisville next Saturday. Ohio State coming up the following Saturday.
That's the one right there. That's the one.
That one. That one's in Madison Square Garden. So, and then the game against Brown before they host Florida to start SEC play. So, that's a big one to start the game. So, that's a big one for sure. So, all right. So, Kentucky fans, by the way, it is 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. We've got 600 of you plus in here. There's some Arkansas fans I see. There's some Missouri fans. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But Kentucky fans, if you're in the chat, you enjoyed your team's win, we got one favor to ask from you. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. That helps out the channel here. And if you want to join our It Just Means More tier here at Southeastern 16, we've been teasing it. We've been telling you guys we got some big stuff coming. We're going to start the watch-alongs, Max. I think I've made the executive decision this week. So if you want to join us, watch some games live with us, probably the second half of most of these games, some of these. We'll give you our game of the week, that kind of stuff. We're also going to do some members-only live streams, some Q&As. If you want to ask us anything. If you don't just want to talk basketball, if you want to talk mustaches, you want to talk ad reads, you want to talk Sanders logistics, we'll get to them in a few minutes. You can do all of it for our members here, $3.99 a month. That helps you get all of our members-only content here at Southeastern 16. Lots of SEC basketball stuff coming there here over the next couple of weeks as we've teased. So, all right, back to regularly scheduled programming. So, as we said, Kentucky sitting at 8-1. If you want to know the advanced numbers, by the way, we can give you those. Kentucky Max now at 10 in KenPom. Let me look at the updated net rankings this morning. Oh, yeah.
Well,
where were they? Where were they at yesterday? Hold on, I put them out yesterday. Let me see if I can find the numbers from yesterday. I see where they're at today, but let me see if that changed from yesterday. It's the net rankings. While
you're looking at that, Kentucky up to 10 in KenPom. That's their highest ranking in 2 years, Blake. You have to go back to when Kentucky was preseason number 1 with, I believe it was Oscar Tease last year, or it was 2023. Yeah, and they opened up SEC play at Missouri and got ran out. That's the last time Kentucky was top 10 in KenPom. They're back.
They're still at 5 in the nets. Them and the Zags did not move at all, which it's the net. And, I mean, Tennessee's 1, Auburn's 2. The Zags are 3, Duke's 4, Kentucky's still at 5. We mentioned Florida's at 6. So, yeah, but again, it's the net. You can't expect a lot of significant changes and all of that with that. So, all right. What about this, Max? On a Sunday morning, Mother Carol giving to the people a $20 super chat. My goodness. We appreciate you, Mother Carol. $20 because we got up early and it made your day. Go Cats. Hey, we know you're up late watching the game last night. We decided to get up early, a little earlier than even maybe we expected, but we'll laugh about that at a later date. But yes, we appreciate Mother Carol. $20 super chat. You too can leave a super chat. Hit that $sign button, a little heart around it, whatever it is. Leave us a super chat. Make sure we get to your comments. We will not miss it if you leave us a super chat. Yep, we appreciate Mother Carol as always. But, all right, I know Kentucky fans want us to just keep talking about the Cats for about an hour.
We can circle back later.
We will circle back to do that. Leave any questions, comments you have. Again, hit that join button. We'll have some Kentucky content probably coming for the It Just Means More members here at Southeastern 16. But let's talk about some other stuff that happened yesterday, Max, and we'll see if we can tie in Kentucky into all of it somehow. But just for the people, all 700 of you who are watching this thing here right now. But elsewhere, come on. What better transition than this, Max? Let's talk about Arkansas because that'll at least perhaps keep the fans entertained here. But thoughts on Arkansas, Max? We had an interesting discussion in our group chat, as we always talk about, the legendary group chat we discuss here at Southeastern 16 with me, you, and Chris Lee. The Hogs get a 75-60 win over UTSA. was not pretty early. They were down 8, halftime, something like that. But Adu Thero, 26 points. He does it again. He puts Arkansas on his back, leads the way, 26-10 for him in this game. Arkansas gets a 15-point victory at home. No Big Z in this matchup. You did get Jonas Adu playing 27 minutes. That's probably a pleasant sight for Arkansas fans. John L. Davis goes for 13. That's another pleasant sight, probably. Thoughts on Arkansas, Max?
This is a revolving door carousel of Big Ben injuries. Z goes out, high fives Adu on the way out. He comes in, and now he's playing the 27 minutes. I believe it was an ankle for Big Z. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Definitely lower leg. Where would this team be without Adu Thero? I mean, where would they be? If you look at some of the numbers, Arkansas shot 19 free throw attempts as a team. 13 of them were Thero. I mean, also, sidetrack here, 17 fouls, Blake. That has to be some sort of, maybe not record, but in some time. You only commit 7 fouls in a whole game. I haven't seen that in a long time, especially for an Arkansas team. But hey, I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. This was ugly. This was ugly. First half was super ugly. Second half, you come out strong and you get a win. But we were talking in the group chat. That game on Tuesday against Michigan is massive now. I don't want to say like March is on the line, but this is the type of game that if you go 9-9, 8-10 in SEC play, this is a game right here where you can look back and you can say, wow, we had a quad 1 opportunity on a neutral floor and didn't get it. Or you could say that Michigan game in early December was massive because that gives us a quad 1. Don't look now, Blake, but that Michigan game's really important now. Really important.
Look, you're playing in the SEC, and we've talked about all these other SEC teams and what they're doing. We just mentioned Kentucky getting a huge win against the Zags. They got to win over Duke, right? We've seen what Tennessee's done to teams. Look what Auburn's racked up at this point in terms of quality wins so far. Houston, Iowa State, so forth. Alabama has racked up quality wins now. And you keep going down the line with these teams. And so when you start comparing non-conference resumes, knowing that once we get to conference play, everybody's going to lose games, right? As good as Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and so forth have been, I don't think anybody's going undefeated in SEC play. You're going to lose games just because of the strength of the conference. Mm-hmm. But for Arkansas and Cal here, they just don't have a resume to this point. Their 2 biggest opportunities, they lost both of those games, and that's why, like you said, that game on Tuesday is huge because Central Arkansas, North Carolina A&T, and Oakland. No offense to Oakland, but they're 3-5 this season so far. They play a tough schedule too. We know that out of the gate, but
always,
probably not last year's Oakland team. So because of that, you have nothing else in terms of the body of work going into SEC play. And oh, by the way, we mentioned in terms of Arkansas's start to SEC play at Tennessee to kick things off, which is a brutal game. Home against Ole Miss, who has exceeded expectations at this point. Home against Florida, same scenario. Back-to-back road games, tricky at LSU and Missouri. And you just keep going down the line. We can go through the entire schedule, but it's the SEC this year. A conference is projected to get however many teams into the tournament, right? Double digits, without a doubt, I would say at this point. So, I mean, that's the issue right now. And so, like you said, it's one thing to win games like this, maybe a little sloppy. It's fine. It's a win, but you need significant wins too. And that Michigan game, that would be, like you said, it's the biggest game of the year so far for Arkansas. And, It's going to feel that way for a little bit because they're trying to build up a resume right now. They just don't have it. So,
hypothetically, say Arkansas goes, 9-9 in conference play. I think that still gets them in with the strength of the league.
I think so.
Say they go, 8-10. Conversations, still have a shot. But what I'm trying to say is, do we really want to be in a position where it's March 1st and that road game at South Carolina is an absolute season-defining must-win? Do you want to be in that position where the next game, 3 days later, at Vanderbilt, is whether you get in or you don't get in. I want to have a little bit more of a foundation of a resume than going into late February, early March needing must wins. So this Michigan game, we need it. Come on, Hogs.
Quick thoughts, Max, on South Carolina beating East Carolina, and then I've got a couple interesting. If you're a Kentucky fan, hang around. I've got an interesting question for you coming up after we talk about this, because we got 800 plus of you in here right now, folks. I got a question for you. But Max, thoughts on South Carolina, East Carolina, the Gamecocks getting the 75-68 win. Talk about games that weren't necessarily pretty, but another victory for the Gamecocks here.
Hey, East Carolina's no slouch. That spread was almost single digits. Yeah. They're not bad at all.
Mike Schwartz, former Tennessee assistant coach, now there coaching the Pirates.
Yep, they've got, Felton's been there forever, and CJ Walker was in the Big 12 last year. So they've got talent. How about Jamari Thomas, Blake? How about Jamari Thomas? We were really banking on Cam Scott to be that guard that is the scorer that can contrast Murray Boyles. But hey, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Jamari Thomas lately. I am. He's a little hot and cold. Depends on if he makes his threes, but I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Jamari Thomas, Blake.
Yeah, he's a big part of this because, like we said, I think this is a team that you have to have your star every night. That's Colin Murray Boyles. Like, he's got to deliver pretty much a double-double. He did that again here, 20 and 10, which is that's what you're looking for. But yeah, you've got to have other guys that can step up and have those kind of games. And then like you look at Jamari Thomas, like you said, 22 in this game. He's had some bigger games too throughout the season. But that's what they're going to need. Like, they're going to need that second consistent, third consistent scorer each game, I think, for South Carolina in this kind of landscape where, right now they're the team at the bottom in the net. They're the team at the bottom in KenPom, I'm pretty sure, which is not. Again, you're in the toughest conference in America. And so, like you've got to have these guys. And remember, we talked about South Carolina too, their schedule. Like, now is the time where we can start to look ahead to SEC schedules. What a brutal start. At Mississippi State, home against Alabama, home against Auburn, at Vanderbilt, at Oklahoma, home against Florida, home against – it's brutal for South Carolina. I would say, at least just looking at it right now, South Carolina may have one of the toughest schedules of anybody in the SEC. Everybody has a tough schedule, but when you look at the matchups that they have and just kind of how it flows, got to be one of the toughest out there. So we'll see.
As Murray Boyles goes, so do the Gamecocks. His success will be directly correlated to the team's success. Pretty much simple as that.
I agree. All right, we're going to get into the Sunday games here shortly, but before we do that, we're going to get to a few of your comments. People are asking some things. If you have any questions, you want to jump in. I know which one you're laughing at in the comments. Jacob, we're not laughing at this question because Jacob says dumb question, but it's not a dumb question, Jacob. Trust me, we've had trouble figuring out how to explain this many times. How do you become a member of the channel? I've been looking for 10 minutes. Well, so it's kind of complicated. On a computer, if you go, you can just click on a video, and underneath it, it'll say join. But if you're on your mobile, I think the best way to do it, and this is what I figured out actually a couple days ago as I was trying to figure this out myself. For some reason, it doesn't give you the option while you're watching this that I know of, unless you just hit all the buttons and try to find it somewhere. If you go to the main homepage of the channel, so if you go to the Southeastern 16, the main channel, I think you will see on there somewhere, it'll say join. It'll show you our members, all that. That's the best thing I can tell you to do. Or if not, again, you might have to just grab a computer or someone and do it that way. Because I'm not sure why it's kind of complicated, but anyone else wants to weigh in on the mobile situation, how you do the join, you can on that. But we appreciate you supporting us. Find a way to do it at some point. But we appreciate everybody joining. It just means more tier. Lots of fun stuff coming for our members this week. So, all right, Max, I had a big question here. Because we are going to do some stuff for our members. We're going to start doing not only some game watch-alongs, maybe, the upcoming games and all that. We might do some retro games. We go back in the day a little bit, Max, embracing the SEC basketball history. So, if you're a fan, there's 820-plus of you right now watching this show. If you're a fan and there's a game out there, you want us to go back and we'll watch along with you live, we'll have all kinds of fun stuff. Give me a classic game. Give me one of your favorite games in the history of your team. We'll go back. We'll watch it with you for our members here. It just means more tier. Southeastern 16. How about that, Max? That sounds like a great deal to me.
That's a fantastic idea. Maybe a little Malik Monk against North Carolina.
Ooh, that was an interesting one. Or should we watch Mark Pope in action back in the day with a Kentucky jersey on? Should we do that? That's a good question. I'm sure we know the answer to that. Oh, shout out to Evelyn, who joined the It Just Means More tier. We appreciate you, Evelyn. So nice. She'll be getting in on the members only action coming up here soon on the channel. So we appreciate that. That's another good one here. Matthew brings up Tyrese Maxey against Michigan State. Malik Monk going off against North Carolina. I forgot about the Kentucky-Georgia game where Malik Monk goes off. Like, take your pick on what game that was. That's kind of the one you could do there. Yeah. Oh, boy, Chad. Arkansas and Duke, 1992. Oh, boy.
Who was the Malik Monk March Madness game? Was it Wichita or was it Oakland? Or Wofford? It was Wofford. Remember when they played the good Wofford team with Fletcher
that
McGee?
Year, oh gosh, Max, this is the greatest comment maybe. Bill says his favorite is Kentucky versus Oakland because it gave him the Pope. So
that's a great way to spin it.
That's not a bad deal there. So yeah, this is the game I remember the most. Kentucky UCLA. That was a tremendous game. You had Lonzo Ball and company in that one. So
was that the Johnny Juzang UCLA?
Was he on that team?
I feel like that was the Juzang.
I mean, because he started at Kentucky and then he went. I don't remember. Right. It all runs together, but So we'll see. All right. A little Tayshaun Prince action. Okay. See, that's my. Give me some.
Distance.
Give me the early 2000s ones like that. We got a lot of great options here. I'm gonna go back and
there we go
and kind of find some of these because we may do this for our members. So if you want to join again. Find a way to do it. We try to tell you how, but it's tough. All right. We're going to look ahead to the Sunday action. And don't worry, folks. We got another live ad read coming soon. I know a lot of you are hanging around for that. Sunday's games, Max. We got Auburn taking on Richmond. We've got Mississippi State against – hold on. I starred the comment here somewhere. Mississippi State.
The Panthers.
As Mississippi State fan says here, 3 o'clock. Best game ever. Prairie View A&M. Mississippi State, the spread – minus 38.5 in Mississippi State's favor right now. What else we got, Max? We got Texas A&M, Texas Tech. We have Texas and UConn.
That's a
Dan Hurley action. LSU, Florida Gulf Coast, Missouri and Kansas, Vanderbilt, TCU. A big day for the SEC. These are some big games on tap. Start where you want, Max.
Well, are we gonna start with the big one, or do we want to end with the big one?
We can start with whichever one you want to start with. So,
all right. Well, then let's just quickly get through some of the larger spreads. Auburn against Richmond at home. Richmond's down a little bit this year. They don't have that usual defense that they had last year. Mark Pope knows a little bit about Richmond. But last year they had like a top 40, top 50 defense, and it's fallen off a cliff this year. So Auburn should roll. Mississippi State, the Panthers, Blake, the Prairie View Panthers. That one should be over after the first 30 seconds. And then the Florida Gulf Coast LSU game, that one might be a little bit tricky, Blake. Florida Gulf Coast plays extremely slow. They're going to muck it up. Pat Chambers. I know it's a large spread, and I know Florida Gulf Coast doesn't look too good on the record this year, but anytime you play a mid-major that really slows it down, can get a little bit tricky. Those are the large spreads, Blake.
Yep, those are the big spreads, like you said. I can't imagine those get too interesting. You never know. But, I just don't see it happening. This Richmond team, Chris Mooney's had some outstanding teams there. Just when you look at the body of work so far, that has not been the case. 2 of their 4 wins have come against non-Division I teams. So, I think Auburn should take care of business in that one.
It's a down year for Richmond.
Yeah, not exactly probably what they want there. All right, let's talk about Missouri-Kansas, because that is obviously one that we know we have some Missouri fans who've joined in. They're sitting here at 7-1, got the comeback victory against Cal, and now they get ready to host Kansas. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Max. This one surprised me a little bit in terms of the number on this one. I just thought Kansas would be favored by more, but maybe that tells you something. about kind of where we are right now with Missouri, who has found a way to sort of build up some of that confidence that we said they just didn't. You couldn't get confidence during a 20-game losing streak as a program, but now like finding ways to come back and beat Cal. Even finding ways to just blow out teams like they did against Mississippi Valley State, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Some of those games earlier in the season against Eastern Washington or Howard where they weren't pretty the whole time, but they still found a way to win games. I think that says something about, your development as a team. This is a huge challenge against Kansas just because I think Kansas, both offensively and defensively, is really good, as we know. But Kansas is coming off of a loss at Creighton, showed some vulnerability there. So what can Missouri do to make this thing interesting?
They can do the old Anthony Robinson bait and get those free throws. That's going to be the name of the game here. Kansas is one of the, how do I want to phrase it? When you look at their free throw rate, each team's free throw rate, how often they get to the line, Kansas is 356th. I mean, there's only like a handful of teams that get to the line less than Kansas, and Missouri's second in the nation. So with this game also being at Missouri, it's not even could. That's going to come into play. Is the Missouri free throws. Can they get a guy like KJ Adams that does a little bit of everything for Kansas in foul trouble? Stuff like that. Like the spread is at 6.5 right now. I mean, this is a 2-possession spread here. So I'm going to be looking at the free throws. And then when you look at the matchups, Peyton Marshall just had a huge game. Peyton Marshall was huge down the stretch. How is that going to work? Is Marshall going to get those big minutes against a guy like Dickinson? Is it going to be Gray until Gray gets in a little bit of foul trouble? Then we try Mark Mitchell at the 5. Interested to see how that shakes out. But also, Blake, the spread isn't all that surprising when you look at how Kansas has performed away from the Fog. They played Michigan State earlier this year on a neutral. They won by 8. They played Duke on a neutral. They won by 3. Now, obviously, Michigan State and Duke are a little bit better than Missouri, but still, they're crushing teams at home, and then they just go on the road to Creighton also and kind of get walked. So they've showed some cracks in the armor away from the Fog, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Missouri, no Caleb Grill in this game. That's not surprising. I think he said there's just no timeline for when he's going to return, and that's why I think when you look at potential options of who's going to step up here, we've mentioned guys that have done it in different games this season, whether it's Anthony Robinson, we talked about, again, him, coming off a huge game against Cal. And I think this is kind of one of those games, without question, where, you need a big game from Mark Mitchell, just based on kind of what you're staring at on the other side with Kansas. And like you said, I think Kansas showing some of the vulnerability away from home, that gives this a little bit, of that extra interest, I think, for Missouri. But I really want to see, just from a rebounding standpoint, those kind of things, how this game plays out. And look, I mean, Missouri's going to have to defend for 40 minutes. Like, that's how they're going to be able to win this game. If they do, like, they're going to have to defend and force Kansas to take bad shots, not just give them easy looks, which, by the way, we know Kansas, a team that's basically doing all their scoring. I mean, look at the percentages, right? Inside the arc, 62% of their points coming from 2. So, yeah, I mean, and I think it's going to be interesting because, like you said, Missouri's got to get to the free throw line. Maybe that's a good opportunity to do that. I think it's just a really tough matchup. And we could say that about a lot of teams against Kansas, but even with this game in Columbia, it's a tough one here, I think, for Missouri. Any other thoughts on this one, Max?
Oh, I'm glad you brought up the rebounding because this has like this has a Dickinson like 21 rebound game written all over it. When it's halftime and Dickinson's got 14 rebounds and you're like, what in the world is this stat line? It has that written all over it. Rebound the ball, get to the free throw line, make it ugly, get KJ Adams, their X factor, in foul trouble, get to the free throw line, make this thing ugly, and you got a chance.
Yeah, I don't think you want a 98-93 game in this one.
No.
That's a recipe for success, but we'll see how it plays out. All right, before we get to the others, shout out to Joy to the World, $4.99 super chat here, for avoiding the curse and allowing Kentucky to prevail. Again, folks, if you're joining in late, we knew what we were doing. Come on. We had to reverse the curse. Southeastern 16 kiss of death. We went reverse. We put it on the Zags, not the Cats this time. So you've got our word. As Dennis asked here, too, we won't give away our prediction just yet, for next Saturday. But Kentucky fans, you can weigh in. Who do you want us to pick in the Kentucky-Louisville game next Saturday?
Interesting.
Are you going to get mad at us if we pick Kentucky? Because they're going to be favored in that game. What should we do? You guys weigh in. Deep thought on a Sunday morning here at Southeastern 16. All right. Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Max, speaking of ugly, what do you think about this one?
This is surprisingly, it's very similar to the game we just broke down. Texas Tech doesn't get to the free throw line too much, but they torch it from three. I mean, they can shoot it. They can really shoot it. And it's the exact opposite for A&M. They will get to the free throw line a million times a game, and they can't shoot it. And this is probably as simple as a breakdown you're going to get this year from us. I mean, it is, does Texas A&M make their shots? Yes, they win the game. No, they lose the game. It's pretty simple.
Take everything we said about Missouri, Kansas, apply it to this game. I think you're exactly right. Like, it's the same scenario. Like, how many free throws can you shoot? You got to defend a team that's going to make shots. You know that. It's just going to be a challenge to defend them, even as good as A&M has been on that side of the court at times in terms of their defense. It's the same thing. I agree with you. This game's in Fort Worth, so you're going to have fans from both teams there.
It'll be a fun crowd.
Yeah, I think this, again, it should be a good game, no question. So, but we'll see what happens. The Kentucky fans weighing in the chat right now. We're trying to stay serious here, but I forgot. We did ask a question. Who should we pick? Leanne says we need to pick Louisville. Ronnie says we got to pick Kentucky and break the curse of the kiss of death. I appreciate that response from Ronnie. Mother Carol tells me I need to keep my promise. I did make the promise that I would not pick Kentucky in big games the rest of the season to keep it going. And then Austin should pick Kentucky to lose, but Mark Pope to win. Oh, that's chess right there. Like, Austin's playing chess.
Advanced,
I like it
right there. Advanced.
Nobody comment. Blake said he'd pick Poop State from now on versus Kentucky. Well, I'm not sure about that.
They got a good defense, so.
Well, they might not have a good defense if you really think about it. But Max, before we wrap up here in a few minutes, and we'll get to more questions and comments. We're about to get to the speed round, folks. If you want to leave any questions, comments, we'll do it rapid fire style. Anything you want to talk about, let us know. Again, hit that like button, subscribe button before you head out. But don't head out just yet, because Max, I don't want anyone else to head out because I'm thinking about heading out. You know why? Because I watched that game last night.
Yeah.
With Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats. I saw him beat the Zags. And you know what my first thought was after the game, Max?
What are you thinking?
I thought, you know what? I'd like to be a part of that. The excitement and the thrill of this basketball season in Lexington, Kentucky. So you know what I decided to do, Max, at midnight?
Come on. Midnight?
Midnight. I gave my friends a call. You know who my friends are, Max. I'm just asking you all kinds of questions here.
You've got a lot of friends.
I called my guys at Sanders Logistics, and I said, gentlemen, I'd like to move to Lexington, Kentucky. You know why? Because basketball season, hot and heavy right now in Lexington. Everybody wants to be a part of it. If you want to be a part of it, and you live in the Nashville, Tennessee area, Sanders Logistics, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving, is a leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. I mean, what else could you want right there? Whether you're moving across town or across the country or to Lexington, Kentucky, to go buy a house beside Mark Pope and talk basketball, zone defenses, X's and O's, dive cuts, all sorts of stuff. Sanders Logistics has you covered. Visit them. TedRSandersMoving.com, folks. Find it there. Join in on the action. Get moving with Ted R. Sanders. Sanders Logistics. Your friends and mine. All right.
Nice.
What else we got, Max?
We have a Vandy TCU game that is one of those games, Blake, where it's one, like the middle tier teams that it's a very short spread that kind of puts a stamp on the day. Is it a great day for the SEC, or did we win the prime time and drop a few? This is one that the SEC has been winning this year. These kind of short spread, not the top teams SEC's been winning them. They got a TCU team that I think is pretty down. I'm not going to lie. This is not Jamie Dixon's best squad. I think this is a winnable game for Vandy.
Yeah, I agree. I think we said Vandy's one of those teams, too, that right now, when you're projecting, the NCAA tournament, they may be slightly on the outside looking in, but like their body of work to this, their body of work to this point is not bad at all. Now, they were not helped by the fact that Nevada has now lost 2 in a row. They lost to Washington State, and they lost that game yesterday to Loyola Marymount on the road, which was not ideal for them. So that's not helping Vanderbilt in terms of the overall numbers. But this would be a big one. I think it's safe to say, even with, like you said, TCU being down a little bit, I think this would still be Vanderbilt's best win, even though, like I said, Nevada, numbers-wise, is still up there. But I think this would, again, be a significant win here.
It's a Big 12 win.
Yeah, and they're playing, too, with A&M and Texas Tech. So those are the 2 games there in Fort Worth. But, because beyond this, the Citadel, Austin Peay, New Orleans, you're not going to get much in terms of, like, the resume there. And we have talked about Vanderbilt's start to SEC play, too. It's brutal in the middle where they've got a stretch where you play Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, at Oklahoma, at Florida. That's a 5-game stretch that no one wants to see. But when you look at the way it starts, at LSU, home against Mississippi State, at Missouri, home against South Carolina, a lot of opportunity those first couple weeks for Vanderbilt in SEC play. So I think this is a big game, very important. Again, I could see this one going either way. I think Vanderbilt should be favored in this game. I think they should win the game just based on, again, how we've seen them play in games like this. But this is one, too, where you look at the numbers, Vanderbilt defensively, we said, leaves a little bit to be desired, but the fact is, like, TCU has just not been a great offensive team. They've got some size, but they're not, gigantic by any means. So I think this is, like you said, this is one Vanderbilt needs to win. This is kind of one of those swing-type games. I think they need to win this one, feel good about themselves, because if they do, then I think you're really looking at the likelihood of being 12-1 heading into SEC play.
Yeah, I used to love TCU, actually, that Mike Miles team. I actually have a TCU sweatshirt. I love Jamie Dixon, love his style, and this team is just not his best at all. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? Have we got all the games for today?
UConn, Texas.
We forgot about UConn, Texas. Yeah, thoughts on that one? UConn coming to town. That's in Austin. Like, that's a big game. We saw UConn bounce back. They beat Maryland Eastern Shore and Baylor. But I think this is it's a tough one because, again, Texas is another one of those teams, Max. Everybody's been like, they've been that impressive, but they found a way to win a lot of these close games. And, that speaks to something because you would expect this to be a close game. Is Trey Johnson about to have a legacy game here, Max, against the defending back-to-back national champions in UConn? He scored at least 16 points in every game so far this season. Is this guy about to go for 30 against the Huskies?
Biggest game at the Moody Center so far. And I know a lot of our SEC viewers probably have not seen much of Texas, just obviously not been in the SEC. That Moody Center, you do not underestimate that Moody Center. That place gets crazy, and especially if you got UConn coming to town. Blake, I'll admit, I have not been too high on this Texas team. The offense has been a little bit choppy. You don't know what you're going to get from night to night. I like this matchup, Blake. I think Texas's interior defense plays right into how you stop UConn's offense. I think if you can just get some efficiency, some shot making from Texas, maybe it's a Trey Johnson game. Maybe Kaluma steps up. We haven't seen Pope have a big game yet. I like this matchup. I'm not sure if Texas is going to win, but I think they're going to be right there.
I'm with you. And this is crucial, as we said, for Texas. Their non-conference schedule is not the best, as we talked about to this point. But I think this is a big one. Like, this is the biggest one out there. They lost that game against Ohio State to start the season. NC State's a decent win, but it's not it's just not going to define your resume the way that something like this would, even with UConn's record being what it is. So, big one. UConn. Big one, exactly. Still defending back-to-back national champions. I don't care what the metrics say. It's a big win if you get this one, for sure. All right, guys, it's time. The rapid-fire round, Max. Are you ready? I found a bunch of super chats here. We're going to address them quickly. All right, let's just start at this one. We just talked about it. Let's make a pick. Texas, UConn.
I'll go bold here. I don't even think it's that bold. I really like Texas in this matchup. I think they defend the rim and UConn doesn't have those big guards to bully down low. I think they have a tough time scoring at the Moody Center. Give me Texas.
All right. We know what I'm doing. Give me UConn in this one.
Nice.
Let's see if
nice.
it works. All right. By the way, Leanne said a few minutes ago, talking about our friends at Sanders Logistics in England. I'll give them a call. I'll tell them, you know what? We got someone in England. They want to move. Can you get the logistics to make it happen? We'll see what we can do with that. By the way, if you know someone who wants to sponsor the show, if you want to hear, if they're bold enough for us to do an ad read for them, just reach out, folks.
Maybe we get some European sponsors.
Yeah. We'll take anything, food, transportation, anything like that. So remember, if you want to reach out for sponsors, if I can find the banner here, Max, you may know where it's at. I don't. We had it somewhere.
I don't.
Caroline.smith at Southeastern 16 or Southeastern14.com. We still have to change our emails on that. Shout out to Evelyn. Live show's been awesome. We appreciate you guys joining. Almost 1,000 people watching at one time at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Incredible. We appreciate you guys hopping in. Mother Carol, will Blake follow me on Twitter for a $5 chat? Yes, that is a bribe. Yes, I will follow you on Twitter for $5. And you don't have to bribe me, Mother Carol. I'll go do it as soon as this show's over, okay? You don't have to pay money to do that. You don't have to do it. So Nathan asks, what's the over-under on Kentucky getting a number 1 seed? I mean...
Oof. Well,
I mean, right now, they would be close, right? They'd be a 2 seed probably right now, wouldn't they?
Right now, they'd be a 2, I think.
Yeah.
And with the amount of opportunities they're going to have in SEC play, I don't know what the odds would be because, only 4 teams obviously get a number 1 seed. But if you want to say, like, what are the odds on Kentucky gets a 1 or 2, stretch it out to that, what would you put that at? Kentucky gets a top 8 seed. Kentucky is a top 8 seed. Is that, like, close? Is that, like, a minus 110? Are we calling that a pick 'em?
It might be a pick 'em because okay, so I'm gonna try to do this quickly, the math, okay? Well, actually, I'm not gonna do math. I'm just gonna give you opponents. So if we go through and see who they play in SEC play twice, right? Because I think that's important. They only play Auburn once. They play Alabama twice. They play Tennessee twice. So like you're getting into like these are some of the best teams. So you do get those 2 twice. Who else is on there twice as I go through this? You only get Arkansas once. We talked about that. Florida, get them once. So, that can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because it's bad loss avoidance. And we keep saying, Max, right now, the entire SEC is bad loss avoidance. Like from a numbers perspective, right? It's just you don't really have any bad losses. So, South Carolina maybe. But it's not like it was, let's say, take the worst team in the SEC 2 or 3 years ago or different. It's just not that case so far. So I'm with you. I think they got a decent shot here for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. Okay. Let me see. I'm trying to make sure we didn't miss any other comments when it came in. All right. We're going to keep going down the line here. Chuck says it's still football time. Yes, Chuck, it is. Yours truly will be joining Chris Lee in a couple hours for the College Football Rankings live reaction show.
Ooh.
It should be wild. Who was it? Big Baller Brats. Good morning, gentlemen. I'll take getting left out of the college football playoff. Of course, Big Baller Brett, an Alabama fan, noted here at Southeastern 16 for a big commitment. Big Baller Brett, we'll have our thoughts on that shortly. I'm going to sub in and join the football reaction show here coming up in a couple hours. So, all right, William gives a shout out here. We appreciate this. So next to the chat, there's a $sign. Click on it. It'll take you to the join section. Folks, if you want to join, there you go. There's the walkthrough you're looking for. How I didn't find that, I don't know. But, yeah, next to the chat, click on that money sign. It'll take you to join and just mean more. You just mean more here at Southeastern 16. Even if you're not a member, you just mean more to us here on the channel. What you got, Max?
We have Mother Carol.
Oh.
With another one. What a morning. What a morning for Mother Carol. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
$5 from Mother Carol. She says, she keeps her promises. Keep my promise on the kiss of death. Max can make it a split. All right. That's fair. It's fair. I'll do my best here. I'll do my best. Over under on Dan Hurley getting ejected tonight, Max.
Oh man. Oh, that is a great one. Now we're getting to the real stuff. Honestly, I think I would put it at like a cheeky plus 150, plus 200. Maybe try to get some public action on it.
It's not a bad idea.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
We need more questions like that.
Chad, also a member of the It Just Means More tier at Southeastern 16. Here's his question. Why did both of us put Kentucky at number 1 in our power rankings tomorrow? Now, hold on a second, Chad. You're trying to get us ousted here by all the other fan bases. Bribes do work at Southeastern 16. But
they do.
Power rankings are going to be answered. We say that every week, but like the more the SEC just keeps racking up these kind of wins, our power rankings just get more and more absurd. Because it's like, how on earth do we rank these teams based on what we've seen to this point? Put them all at 1A and 1B and C and on down the line. Tremendous from the
We'll be live for the power rankings, will we not?
We will be doing our power rankings live tomorrow, Southeastern 16, folks. Hit that subscribe button. You'll find us doing that probably around, I would say, either 8:30 or 9 a.m. Central tomorrow. It'll be one of the two. Turn those notifications on. That way you know when we go live. But, yeah, we will do our power rankings live tomorrow. Which
Central, not Eastern, right?
Central time, folks, not Eastern time. There's an inside joke there, but we will keep that to ourselves. Elijah, come on, Elijah, you're trying to poke the bear here. Who's the worst team in the SEC and why is it South Carolina? Listen, South Carolina they're not. We talk worst teams, right? You got to put somebody 1 through 16. But traditionally, if you look at this South Carolina team, you compare them to the worst teams in the SEC in however many years, right? They're probably, I don't know, Max, like 12 or something. You know what I mean? Like they're probably not a 16 team in other recent years. They're probably feel like more like a 12 in the SEC or an 11, something like that. So by record only.
9 games into the season now, so we do have a good amount of data. They're 68th in KenPom, and that would have been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They would have been 9th. They would have been 9th in the conference last year. So I think it's more, the SEC is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. David says here, that's where Chris Lee is, trying to put together power rankings. No, Chris is probably also getting ready for, again, the football show we're going to do here in a couple hours. I think our plan is to react live as they reveal the bracket, which not as much suspense. We kind of know around where teams are going to be slotted. It's not as suspenseful as the NCAA tournament bracket show we do here at Southeastern 16, which we'll be doing, of course, this season again. But there you go. All right, joy to the world.
Can't wait for the gut bracket.
Oh, the gut bracket.
The gut bracket.
If you're new to the channel, the gut bracket had Mississippi State winning the whole thing last year, I think, or Final Four or whatever it was. Max had Mississippi State. This year might not be a bad call. You might need to do that the way the dogs are looking right now. So
I might have been a year off.
You might have been a year off. Joy to the World has just become a YouTube member. We appreciate that.
Nice.
And again, we got some fun stuff in the works for you guys, for our members. We're going to do some members-only stuff. So if you want to get on that, hit that button. We appreciate it. I know we plug this a lot, but look, you're helping the channel. That's one of the reasons we get to do this more, do these live streams. Hey, we're an independent company here, and so we appreciate all the incentives and all the contributions you guys make to the channel. We really do. So, all right, we're gonna wrap it up here, folks. Like I said, we're back in a couple hours with the college football reaction show. We're back basketball wise on Monday morning with our SEC power rankings live and in living color. What another interesting edition of power rankings it should be. And
he's been asking for this all day.
Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
I always do that. If you would have told me this guy didn't play, and that's what he wants, Devin, I'm saving it. All right, you got to use the. If you would have told me in moderation, all right. We've used it already a few times for the cats, but it's there.
Well, listen, we're gonna finish off with this. Joe says in the comments, "I skipped church for this. God hates me now." Thanks, guys.
Oh no,
you say that, Joe, but all the talk today has been about the Pope. So you can say what you want. We'll help you out here, Southeastern 16. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on your way out. Again, check out everything we got coming. Football reaction in a couple hours. Me and Chris Lee going to hop on that one. And also, if you're a podcast listener, you can listen to our stuff on podcasts, too. That also helps the channel. if you want to listen audio-wise, we want you to come back on YouTube, but you can also listen on audio. Find us there as well. So, all right, guys, we appreciate you watching. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon, a couple hours for some of us, here at Southeastern 16.